There are stories we hear once and forget. And then there are stories that linger. Stories that burn inside us long after they end. This is one of those stories. In the restless heart of Lagos, the city that never truly sleeps, the streets glowed with colour. Yellow Danfo buses groaned through traffic. Neon signs flickered against the night. And the smoky haze of suya stands rose into the air, filling it with the scent of pepper and roasted meat. Street hawkers shouted, horns blared, and life pulsed with energy. But amidst this chaos stood something different. The Palms Cuisine, a restaurant that glowed like a jewel in the night. It was a place of luxury, where mahogany tables shone under warm amber lights, where the wealthy came not just to eat, but to be seen. Yet on one unforgettable night, something happened inside its kitchen that no guest had ever imagined. The flames went cold. The man hailed as the best chef in the city, a man whose food was poetry, refused to cook. And when a powerful millionaire demanded to know why, what he discovered was not arrogance, but a truth carved out of love, grief, and memory. Chef Kofi was a tall man in his late 30s, his shoulders broad from years spent commanding kitchens. His eyes, however, told a different story. Tired eyes, heavy with something his staff could not name. Inside that kitchen, flames roared and pots clattered. Steam curled in the air like smoke signals to the heavens. Knives chopped in rhythm, the heartbeat of a busy night. Yet in the center of it all, Kofi stood still. An order had come in. Not just any order, but for his signature dish. Jollof rice with smoked tilapia, seasoned with a secret blend passed down from his family. The staff waited, glancing nervously at their leader. But instead of springing into motion, Kofi set down his spoon and turned away from the fire. He refused. A silence dropped across the kitchen. The clatter of pots faded. The hiss of oil grew quiet, as if the room itself held its breath. For years, Kofi had been the pride of this restaurant, a perfectionist who never faltered. Yet now, when asked for the dish that defined him, he refused. Out in the dining hall, laughter and conversation filled the air. At the VIP table sat Chief Obi, a man whose presence commanded respect. He was dressed in flowing agbada, coral beads hanging proudly around his neck. His voice deep, his laughter booming. People whispered about him wherever he went. A millionaire whose power stretched across industries. A man who lived like a king. When his aide leaned close to tell him that the chef had refused his request, the table gasped. It was unheard of. Who refused Chief Obi? But the chief did not erupt in anger. Instead, a curious smile tugged at his lips. He was a man used to obedience, but this was different. A chef refusing him? There had to be a reason. Slowly, Chief Obi rose from his chair. The hall grew silent as guests watched him stride toward the kitchen, his agbada flowing behind him like a shadow. He pushed open the doors, stepping into the world of fire and steel. Inside, the staff froze as the chief entered. His presence filled the room like a storm cloud, but his eyes fixed only on Kofi, who stood tall yet weary, arms folded, refusing to meet his gaze. The chief wanted an explanation, and what he heard was a truth heavy with sorrow. Kofi spoke of his mother, the woman who had taught him everything he knew. For them, food had never been mere survival. It was language. It was love. It was memory. Together they had cooked, laughed, argued, perfected dishes until flavors sang like music. But when she died, the flame inside him had died too. Every grain of rice became an echo, Every pot of stew tasted of ashes. Cooking, once his joy, now felt like betrayal. As though by continuing, he would be admitting she was truly gone. And so he stopped. The staff lowered their heads. Some swallowed tears. The air was thick with silence, heavier than smoke. But Chief Obi was not a stranger to grief. For years he had carried his own wound. He too had lost his only son, the heir to his name and fortune. Since that day, wealth filled his life, but food lost its taste. No matter how expensive the meal, it all turned to dust on his tongue. And so two men, one rich in money, the other rich in talent, stood on the same broken ground, bound not by success, but by grief. Chief Obi, with a voice quieter than anyone expected, asked for only one thing. He did not want a dish for a customer. He wanted a dish for a fellow grieving soul, for one father to another. For the first time in years, Kofi hesitated. Then slowly, as though guided by an unseen hand, he tied his apron. The staff, stunned, watched as the fire roared to life once more. The kitchen transformed. Oil shimmered crimson in the pan like molten gold. Tilapia sizzled, its skin crisping, juices hissing into the flames. Spices flew through the air, rich with color. Red peppers, green herbs, golden turmeric. Steam curled upward in slow motion, thick and almost spiritual, as though ancestors themselves leaned close to inhale. Kofi's hands moved with rhythm, precise yet tender. Sweat beaded on his brow, but his eyes were focused, alive. Each stir of the spoon, each chop of the knife carried memory. He was no longer just cooking. He was summoning something greater. His mother's presence filled the room. Her voice whispered in the crackle of the oil. Her laughter echoed in the aroma. The staff stood frozen, watching not just a chef, but a man resurrecting his fire. When the dish was finally ready, it was carried into the dining hall and set before Chief Obi. The room fell silent, all eyes fixed on the millionaire. He lifted his spoon, slowly, reverently, and took the first bite, and then time stopped. In that moment, Obi was no longer in the restaurant. He was back at his home, his son's laughter filling the air. He was at the table where love once lived. The flavors unlocked doors in his memory he thought had closed forever. His lips trembled. His eyes brimmed with tears. A powerful man wept quietly over a single dish. And across the room, Kofi stood watching, his chest heavy but lighter than it had been in years. For the first time since his mother's passing, he smiled faintly. His food had spoken again. Later that night, outside the glowing restaurant, Chief Obi placed a hand on Kofi's shoulder. He reminded him that love never truly dies. It lives on in the traditions we keep, in the things we continue to do, in the fire we refuse to let go out. Through cooking, Kofi's mother still spoke. Through every dish, her memory would live forever. And so the chef returned to his kitchen. The stove flames roared, not as a burden, but as a promise. In the sleepless city of Lagos, the palm's cuisine shone brighter than ever that night. A story had been born there, not of wealth, nor of power, but of love stronger than grief. Because when we cook with love, the dead never leave the table, fade to black,